This call is now being recorded. Okay. So, a very good evening to everyone. We welcome you back for the second session in our DH lecture/seminar series focused on editing and publishing, which is linked to a course that I'm currently teaching at IIT Jodhpur. And today's speaker for the day is Dr. Sukrita Kumar. And now may I request my colleague, Dr. Sridevi, who would be hosting this event. It will be in the form of, an interactive session and interview. So the floor is yours, Sridevi.
So thank you, Natasha. So before introducing today's speaker, I just want to inform you that the session is planned as an interactive session. So you can just intervene at any point and unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can also put it in the chat where I can read it. And in order to initiate the discussion, I'll be beginning with one or two questions, and then I welcome all of you to participate in this. So now I'll introduce today's speaker, Sukrita Kumar, former fellow of Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla, held the prestigious Aruna Asaf Ali Chair at Delhi University. An honorary faculty at Corfu, Greece, she was invited resident poet at the prestigious International Writing Program at Iowa, USA. Her most recent collections of poems are Salt and Pepper, Vanishing Words, and Dreamcatcher. Her poems have been translated into many Indian and foreign languages. Her critical books include Narrating Partition, The New Story, and Conversations on Modernism. She has co-edited many books, including Speaker for Herself, Asian Women Writings. An honorary fellow at HK Baptist University, Hong Kong, she has published many translations and has held exhibitions of her paintings. Currently, she is series co-editor of Writer in Context, volumes published by Routledge, UK and South Asia. She is also the guest editor of Indian Literature, a journal published by Sahitya Academy, India. So a warm welcome to this, this evening. I'll just begin with a question about your creative journey. So you've been an artist, a writer, a poet, translator, and an editor, and an academic as well. So let's begin by talking about your creative journey. Like can you a little bit elaborate on that?
As you can see that I am already on the other side of the journey in the context of my age and my experience in life. So it's very difficult to really put it all into a small session or just as a kind of a answer to one question. But I think to simplify your job and my own, what I really in a nutshell do want to sort of point out, first of all, I need to actually thank you for organizing this particular program and in the form that I best like, which is in the dialogue form. So when you're talking about my creative journey, and I'm glad, I don't know whether you said creative or not, but I would like to call it my creative journey. And you're talking about these various boxes that we create for ourselves, which is either through disciplines or through the roles that we play as writer, artist, translator, editor, academic. To my mind, all of this comes together. I don't see them as separate professions altogether. And I think the faculties that one develops, for instance, all my life, I have been doing whatever is inspirational. That is very primary. Whether it comes to teaching, and I do think of teaching as a fine art, where just as an artist, as a writer, when you're making something, there is a very invisible kind of a reader or a viewer, at the other side. And that could be probably located within your own self also, because it's another self of yours which is watching, which is kind of witnessing or hearing or viewing whatever you are doing, and is also steering in the form of an editor, constantly looking at it and saying, no, not this way, but this way, and you are lost many times. And then that's where the editor self comes up and says, no, I have my third eye to tell you where to go, right? And that is what you say, oh my God, I've got it, right? And then you move in that direction. And for that, you need competence. You need competence of an academic, maybe. You need skills, you need tools. And in our case, most of us who are in this area of literature and dealing with words, we need proper felicity in using of language, for instance. How do we use language? What is communication? What kind of a vocabulary that we may have accumulated over time? And so that's one kind of thing which actually tells upon your faculty or your performance as a writer, as a translator, as an editor. So it gets into everything. It's just a question of priority, and when you're a writer, then obviously this matters a lot as to what is your mastery over language. And if you don't have that mastery over language, no matter what beautiful imaginative ideas you might be having, but if you don't have expression to coordinate with that, to be able to express what your inspirational mood or theme may be, then of what use is it in the context of writing? You have to use the tool. You have to know your, the brush that you are using, the colors that you have, what paint it is. So the tools are very important, is what I'm trying to say. And your competence in that is very important. So I would say that, just as in the context of, say, the artist, you would want a visual kind of an imagination, right? And if you don't have that visual imagination, actually, even as a writer, you need that, don't you? You need to visualize something. But the thing is that as a writer, you will use words to translate what you are seeing in your imagination into words, right? And then you need translation, faculty of translation. But as a translator, you will need to also have a vision, to be able to see. So it's all, in one sense, it all comes together. It's only a question of emphasis. Somewhere one faculty is more emphatically needed than the other. But I think in my particular kind of journey, as you put it, what was very important to me was, because I have been painting all my life. I have had a canvas waiting for my attention all the time. It's a question of how much time do I have for it? It's a question of how much can I do in that direction. And sometimes I feel frustrated because I'm not able to have that stretch of time that a painting demands, right? So therefore, what do I do then? At times, instead of doing a larger canvas, I might take on a smaller one. So because of lack of time, I do these kinds of compromises also. So maybe there is a problem there, but I do want to paint, and I do want to write my poetry, and I do want to edit as well, because I feel that as an editor, doing an editor is also a kind of, it teaches you not to have an ego. It is a thankless job. It is somewhere you don't even many a times get acknowledged for your editing. Particularly if you're editing somebody else, or mostly it is somebody else's work, your name doesn't go there as an editor. But you have to be invisible even to yourself. And yet your faculty of editing has to come alive, right? So for which you need sensitivity of the writer. How do you align with the writer? So I think probably because of these various faculties within which I was kind of functioning in a variety of ways. And it's in a way a kind of a change if you go from the writerly desk to a translator's desk, or from there to an editor's, or then to the classroom where there's a different kind of communication, which has its own dynamic, But that dynamic is also very important. You try teaching in the typical way of teaching. If you're not creative, you are a bore, And students are going to boo at you, even if they don't say that, but they are going to boo. So you have to respect the student as much as you respect your reader or the viewer of your painting, right? So you learn that. You learn that in the classroom. And so you devise various ways of communication, which is also inclusive of your expression and your articulation of that particular text or whatever idea that you are teaching. So I think it's very important to think all of this. In fact, to my mind, living is a fine art, right? Even moment to moment living itself, it has certain demands, a certain level of commitment, conviction. And if you don't have that conviction in any of these that I'm talking about, whether it's your, translation that you are doing, or your editing, or your writing, or your painting, you have to commit. I am, on the whole, a very existentially conscious person. I commit myself to the moment. And in that moment, I need to clip everything else I have to clip out from the world in general and just focus on what I am doing. And then I try to. I don't know how successful I am, but I find if I'm witnessing myself, I'm talking about myself as a witness. And I think it's very important to be self-reflexive, which doesn't mean that one is being arrogant. One should not be arrogant. You are humble. You need to be having that also humility when you submit to the moment, right? Let the moment take you fully in, absorb you, and then you'll see in that moment lies the eternity. That's what I mean, existentialism, right? Of that kind. I'm not talking about nihilistic existentialism or Sartre or Camus or Kafka or anything. I'm talking about what I mean by I exist in that moment. And in that moment, if it is editing that I'm doing, I'm totally in it. So I think that's one of the things that one has to tell oneself. How much do you commit yourself to whatever you are doing? And in that, it becomes you're drowning in it, you're delving deep into it. In itself makes you an artist, I think. Whether it is, in the classroom or outside of it, or of life, the demands that life has on you, what may be happening in Gaza is how you would sort of own it and think about it. And then wherever you take it, talking about it, the expression will matter. It will come out of your conviction, your reflection, your imagination, which is combined with your emotion, right?